All right, let's give it up for John.
So wait a minute.
All right, before I get, oh, hang on. There we go. Before I get started, I have two things I'd like to do. The first thing is I'd like everyone to stand if you are able. See, my job is to make sure you don't go into post-lunch coma right now. And so I want to get everybody standing and moving around just a little bit. Shake your arms out, shake your legs out, and then repeat after me. I am awake, alive, alert, joyous, enthusiastic, and grateful for this day. Excellent. Give yourself a hand. Please take a seat if you would like. I also need a volunteer. Who here loves themselves some Instagram? Nobody? No one? Okay, we got a hand being raised. Would you be willing to do me a favor and just take some photos throughout our time together that you can give to me at the end?
Sure.
Would you be willing to do that?
Wow.
All right, thank you. Can we give her a hand? I appreciate that, yes. All right, let me get back here. We're using a little bit of a different system than I'm used to, so let's go like that. There we go. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jackie, and to each and every one of you. I am very thankful to be here. My name is John Antonucci, and I don't want to spend almost any time telling you about me, but I will give you one thing, and that is that I have been in some form of training for over 20 years. Everything from instructing martial arts, where I do have 3 different black belts, Shotokan, Toshikan, and an honorary degree in 5 animal kung fu, to coaching soccer, to training and rehabilitation, to doing train-the-trainer courses, to directing an international organization, and part of that experience is actually what we're going to talk about today, because our time together today is going to be, if you can call this, a case study. We're going to be looking at a real-world scenario that I went through way before I started SML, and what we're looking at. So I don't need to tell you a whole bunch about me. You can look me up on LinkedIn or do whatever you guys want to do to search me out, but ultimately I tell you the training part because I want you to know that I'm coming at this conversation and our time together from the perspective of equipping and empowering our people. How many is that important to you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's where I come from. That's the realm in which I thrive. And so that's where we're going to be coming. And so I am really happy to be able to talk to you today about something that I think hits us all pretty hard. And that is why current performance, retention, and engagement strategies aren't working. And then most importantly, what we're going to do about it. How we can actually address some of the challenges. Now, like I said, I have to go like this every time, aren't I? See if I can get my computer to function. There we go. Okay. We've all been there. Every single one of us has. In fact, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. Raise your hand if this is something you are doing in your organization. How many of you have a benefit package? Some sort of benefit package like the Hill Group was just talking about, where you're trying to do something to make sure your people are taken care of. Excellent. How many of you have some sort of employee fun day? Maybe it's a game night, maybe it's a yearly picnic, maybe something. Okay, beautiful. How many of you are offering wellness informational workshops, webinars, something to try to give your people some additional resources, maybe mental health resources, things like that? Beautiful. Mm-hmm. How many of you are using some sort of an HRCM that's kind of designed to be something people can log into, people can engage with one another, okay, awesome. And one more thing, how many of you are still getting thousands of emails every day telling you about the next greatest opportunity for engagement? All right, if you didn't raise your hand for the first 4, that's okay. If you didn't raise your hand for the last one, I just know you're lying or asleep already. Those are the only 2 possibilities when it comes to that last one. We've all been there. We're all kind of in this same boat. And yet, if you are like most organizations, especially those of you in HR, it sometimes kind of feels that the more you try to give, the more is expected. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really feel like there is a bottom to that hole sometimes, does it? Sometimes it feels like, yes, we have this, and we have the platform, and we have the program, and we have the this, and we have the that, and they still want more! And it can be extraordinarily frustrating. And I'm going to guess that that's why many of you found this to be an interesting topic. It's not because you don't care. It's not because you don't have resources. It's not because you think that it's a waste of time. It's because you're trying. and you're using what's out there and you're not sure why it doesn't work. So what I want to do at this time, if I can get, there we go. Today's objectives, our time together today, I want to do 3 things together today. The first thing that I want to do is I want to analyze exactly what we're doing. Basically, what are we doing in our current engagement strategies? I also want to identify the key factors that give company culture, engagement, retention, and productivity what they are. And I want to develop some actionable strategies that will help ensure a thriving workplace. Before I talk, though, I've said this to a couple of you, the less I talk, the better we all are. So I want to invite each and every one of you to, at your tables right now, turn to the people that you happen to sit next to or got sat with and answer the questions. What is your company currently doing? What do you feel is working? And what do you feel is not working? We'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes to do that, and I will shut up for the meantime. Go ahead, y'all. All right, if I can have your attention back here at the front, who would like to share something they are doing right now? All the way in the back, what do you got?
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Leah.
Something that we just started recently, I'm with Hospitality. We own 4 hotels, 2 here in Charleston, and then 1 in Alabama, and 1 in Chattanooga. We have tuition assistance reimbursement.
Tuition assistance reimbursement.
Nice.
Team members are allowed up to $1,500 a year.
Love that.
We reimburse them, for instance, we have a couple of people that got their small business license.
Love that.
Work certificates.
Yeah.
And we reimburse them. My company, pretty awesome company that I'm developing, that we just started offering to for hourly employees.
Wonderful.
We have 401k, we have life. We actually have a lot of employees that have been with the team for over 10 years or better.
Awesome.
17 years. So I was at hospitality.
Love it. Let's give Leah a hand. Next for Miss Lee. Miss Lee just got a legacy pin from my company. We don't even make those anymore. That's our old slogan, empowering the empowerers. So yes. Okay, and it sounds like that's working. Who is willing to be really, really courageous right now and say, we're doing this, but it's not working?
Oh, no.
He said, no, I was willing to be courageous and tell the question. Did you have your hand up? Go ahead. Where's the mic? We're supposed to have a hand held somewhere. No, you don't need it? Okay.
So we have a culture committee, and we meet once a month, and we've been trying to get more engagement with our employees, and we're kind of struggling. We have 3 departments, and we're in multiple states. So we are here, we're in North Carolina, one guy's in Georgia, and one guy's working in Texas right now.
Okay.
So trying to get everyone to engage.
The culture committee getting it to engage,
and not
yeah.
having it just be a food event.
Yes.
So we've been working on some lunch and learns and making them more virtual.
Yeah.
And various topics.
Okay.
Still kind of working on that.
It's a challenge, especially because if you have a culture challenge, what we often do is come at it from the perspective of we want to create a better culture. And I'm a pretty big believer you can't create a culture, you can only foster it. And that is a unique and dynamic challenge. Thank you so much for being willing. Let me give you a pen as well. Especially for that amount of courage. I think it's not working the way I want it to. Okay. Let me bring my computer back up. The question that I would ask, though, is how would I know? How would I know that retention and engagement and all these things are a challenge? Because remember, I'm not in HR. I'm not from HR. So how is it that I would have the knowledge? Yes, I have friends in HR, and because someone told you. But how would I know? And the answer to that question is pretty simple. It's because I really have been there. I've seen it firsthand. Company that I worked for, W2, I was the training manager in that organization, eventually became their director of revenue, and we were genuinely doing our best. How many of you guys are just doing the best you can right now? All right, for those of you that don't have your hands up that are not doing the best you can, we got to talk later. Tell you. We genuinely cared as an organization. In fact, our founders, we were a medium-sized company, about 75 to 100 people, give or take, during the time I was there. And our founders, we were not a publicly traded company. There was no contractual obligation. And our founders went out of their way every year to distribute proceeds to every member of the organization. That's how much we cared. That's how much we were trying to do the best we could. Our staff was well paid. In some cases, we're extremely well paid, especially for a smaller organization. We offered good benefits, again, especially for a small organization. In fact, when we were purchased by private equity and they came in with their supposedly amazing benefit package, quite frankly, a lot of the ones we had in the beginning were much better. We were treating our people well. And if I can say so with humility, we had a fantastic training program. I really did build it from the ground up, and we had something that even federal auditors would come in and say, we've never seen anything like this. So people knew how to do their jobs, they knew how to do it well, and yet, despite all of our best efforts, we still were encountering the exact same thing that haunts every single one of our dreams, and it's those two words, I quit. Over and over and over again. And we could not figure out why. We were just doing the best we could. We were trying to treat our people well. We were giving them the resources that they needed, and we still could not figure out what was going on. And so in order to address the challenges that we faced, we made a major change. And I put on the screen that we decided to take the road less traveled. And I say that because we recognized we had a problem. And I hope this is not happening to anyone here. But what I've seen a lot of is that it's a lot easier to pretend like you don't have a problem than to actually address the problem. Anybody ever worked for an organization where it was a lot easier to put our head in the sand than it was to actually say we got an issue? For us, we put our head in the sand for a long time, so don't let me stand up here and convince you that we were perfect. For the longest time, the de facto response when somebody would quit was, it's their problem. They weren't a good fit. They obviously had problems. They don't have any loyalty. But eventually, we had a scenario where we had a tenured employee wait till the day after bonuses were distributed and walk out. And that was a wake-up call. When you have an employee that's been around, the company had only been around probably 11 years, and she'd been there for 7 of them. And she waited until the day after bonuses and said, deuces. And that was a wake-up call for us. And so we decided to implement decisive action. We started with feedback, and I mean real feedback. Now, I could take in 2 hours, Ryan, I feel you, brother, I feel you. I could take 2 hours just talking about effective feedback implementation. And I'm not here to talk trash to anybody, but the chances are most of us in this room are doing feedback wrong because we're getting the answers we want instead of the answers we need. That's a whole separate conversation. If you want to talk about that, talk to me afterwards. What we did with that feedback is we reflected on it. We did not let it go into the circular filing cabinet. We did not put it into a drawer. We didn't even just send it up the chain and say, we'll hope it goes somewhere, maybe. We genuinely reflected and we took action. Some things we were able to do very quickly. We noticed something we'd actually never noticed. There was a discrepancy between dress code, between the executive level and the operations level. The operations level was like, excuse us, why are we being held to a standard that you're not holding yourself to? And myself and the director of operations went to the C-suite and we basically said, we're not enforcing this. Fire us. Because we can't, in good conscience, require something of our team that we're not requiring of ourselves. Those were easy. There were some that took more time. Some changes are very difficult. They require a lot of stakeholder buy-in. They require financial buy-in. They require a lot of things. And in fact, the one thing that I'm going to talk to you about today took us almost 9 months for myself and the HR director to convince the C-suite of. So when I tell you that we did this, don't let me make you think that it was like, oh, we just snapped our fingers and it was all taken care of. That'd be a bull-faced lie, and I'm not here to lie to you. And then we repeated the process over and over again because things shift. I was just having a wonderful conversation before this about how in today's world, things move quick. Today's rules are not tomorrow's rules. In fact, the rules that you left with this morning may not be the rules you walk back into this afternoon.
True.
And so we repeated that process where we got more feedback and we ruminated and reflected on that, and then we would take action, and then we would go back and get more feedback and repeat that process many, many times. In that feedback, we found some interesting things. The first thing is that we actually found our people, in a lot of ways, were very happy. And that is honestly what comes out first in these feedbacks. People go, oh yeah, no, I love my job. Yes, I feel fairly paid. Yes, I feel like I'm being challenged and I have growth. And I had one organization that I knew had serious internal problems, and then when I talked to them, they said, we have a 97% satisfaction rating. Like, then why have you had 3 10-year employees walk out in the last 2 months? Now, in their particular case, they were not ready to have that hard conversation. I was the enemy at that point. But that's what comes out first, what people like. And so that's good, because then you know what to keep doing. But as we continued to follow this process, what surprised us was where our gap lie. We did not see our gap coming. And what we heard it in little ways. We heard things like, I just don't feel heard. What do you mean? We're doing feedback like 3 times a year. What do you want? They would say things like, I don't feel supported. And in some cases, I don't feel empowered to do my job or to move up with the organization. And so I said that we decided to take the road less traveled. If I get my computer to work well, that would be awesome. Let's just do this way. I apologize, guys. There we go. So our big gap that we found in the organization that I worked for at that time was quite simply our frontline leaders. Our frontline leaders. Now, I'm going to define frontline leaders. There's a lot of different ways to define it, but I'm going to define it as one who is on the front lines or ground level of an organization and is leading a team. When I'm defining it, I'm talking to you, I'm going to say that's director level and below. Director level and below. And here's what we messed up on. We learned this over time. This was not an instantaneous revelation. This was something that we figured out over time. But here's what would happen. And just tell me if we're the only one. Maybe we're the only ones that did this. Maybe this won't resonate with anybody in this room. But how many of you hire employees? Only half the room is hiring? Okay. Not hiring actively, just hire in general. Okay. All right. Once you hire, statistically, it's like, what, 10 to 15% show that they're really good and they get promoted, right? That muscle menos, okay? And how do we do those promotions? I know internally we promoted based on there's probably a lot of criteria, but supervisor's recommendation. Right? We promote a lot based on supervisor recommendation. We promoted a lot on technical expertise. They're the best at that, so let's put them in charge of the team. We would promote sometimes just on they've been around longest. And we kind of need to reward that longevity, because if we don't, they're going to go find somewhere else. And there's nothing inherently wrong with those strategies. Going back to us doing the best we can with what we have, I'm not a big fan of like the Moneyball idea where it can all be charted out by a computer and it'll tell you who to hire and who to fire. I think there's a human aspect to human resources that just the computer cannot undo. Actually, there's an article that'll get released next week on LinkedIn by me that I talk about that, so not that you care, but little subliminal thing there. No, it's not necessarily wrong, but here's what we forgot. And this is where we were failing massively. We were failing to recognize that when we hired and when we trained, these individuals were doing 100%, we're just going to call it ops/sales. That might be finance, that might be implementation, that can be any number of things, but operational or sales type work. But the minute they stepped up into that front line of leadership, it went from 100% operations to like 20% operations and 80% relations. And I distinctly remember the conversation, the very first one, where I walked up to the CEO and I said, man, what have we ever done to empower our team leads to know how to treat their team? The answer is nothing. I was in charge of training. This is a diss on me. Now, it was an uphill battle because I worked for an organization that wanted to focus operationally. And that's why it took us 9 months from that first conversation to when we started taking actual action to fix this was about 9 months, because we were operationally focused. And I will never forget the last conversation before we finally got the ball rolling, when I looked at the CEO in the eyes and I said, man, I don't care how well they can do their jobs, if they don't know how to lead their teams, we're never going to be successful. And that was our humongous gap. We found that we had never taken the time to do that. So, once again, I want to invite you at your tables to talk for a few minutes. And in this concept of frontline leaders, if I get my clicker to work, there we go. Those are a little small, so let me read those out loud, the discussion. The screen's a little smaller than expected. But with your table, do you currently have a frontline leadership development strategy? Number 2, if yes, what are you doing? If 3, if not, what is preventing it? We'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes to discuss that at your tables. All right, can I ask everyone to bring their attention back toward the front?
And that's what I was drafting.
Sounds like you had some really, really good conversations. I overheard this table probably more than anybody else because I'm closest. I'm not calling them loud or anything. Close. No, but I heard something that I hear a lot out in the world, and that is specifically how many your greatest sales reps are your worst sales managers. Because, and here's the thing, we understandably correlate, well, if they're great salespeople, they're great people. They're going to be great leading a team. And I have watched time after time after time that not be the case. But here's the deal, it's not just sales. I heard over here also talking about operational soundness and how you can be the very best. Here's something I see a lot in the Greenville area. We have people that are technical experts, specifically in the engineering field. And I'm sorry, we need engineers, but engineers are problem fixers. And do you know what people hate to be? Thought of as a problem.
Right.
It's a challenge. And I don't know if you have experienced the same thing. By raise of hands, how many of you are doing something for your frontline leaders already? Wonderful. Can you give your these ones a hand? I love that. That's fantastic. Those of you who either are doing something or have tried to do something, you might find the same thing that I found. I went out to try to find a solution to this problem because, again, the company wanted me to stay focused operationally. And here's what I found. I found a significant amount of resources for executive leaders. Not what I was looking for. I found a significant amount of compliance training. Important, but not what we needed. I found a significant amount of operational type management training. Again, not bad, but not the gap that we had found. They knew how to do their jobs. In most cases, they knew how to do their jobs really, really well in a highly technical industry. Where they were suffering was in their ability to engage with people. I also found a lot of what I call check-the-box trainings. I hope I don't step on any toes. I kind of do, actually. But what I call check-the-box training, which is videos that we had them watch, or platform that they were supposed to go log into, or even this, and this is a pet peeve of mine, where we send somebody out for 3 days and we think that's going to solve all their problems. And I'm sorry, how many of you have been to a 3-day conference before? All right, how many of you came back remembering everything you learned? How many of you came back with a headache and a growing sense of dread of what your inbox was going to look like? Get your hands up. Come on now, be honest with me today. None of what I found filled the gap that we had. And this is one of the biggest reasons that I believe the current solutions are not working. It's because most of what's offered is attacking needs that are not a humongous gap in our organizations. These needs, they are needs. The benefits packages, that's not a wish, that is a need. Payroll providers, that is a need. But I know a lot of companies who have all of the bells and whistles, but they've never given tools to their frontline leaders. And so here's the deal, I've never heard a single person say, I hate the CEO, so I'm quitting. It's all my immediate supervisor. And the more research I did, the more I realized this is a real issue. There was a study that came out in early 2024, I think it was, that said that a person's immediate supervisor has the same impact on their mental health as their spouse.
Wow. Wow.
Now, for those of you that have both, I had one person say, both my supervisor and my spouse, I'm in trouble. So let me tell you what we did. Let's try to move through this. Since we couldn't find an external option, we decided to do it in-house. And that's a whole other side of things, because quite honestly, I think in-house training in this is usually pretty ineffective. The only reason I think we were able to make it work is because I was still new enough as the training manager in that organization that I was pseudo third party. But often it's just people are too close to the issues and it doesn't work. But that's, again, separate conversation. Here's what we decided. We decided that we were going to, first of all, choose engagement over platitudes. Let me give you an example of what I mean when I say engagement over platitudes. We decided to do it the hard way, and that would be making sure that we were acting out what we wanted from them. Again, we didn't use a platform. We weren't using click-through training. We weren't using check the box. In fact, what we did not ask is, how can we fix this? It might seem weird. Why would you not ask, how can we fix this? What we did ask is, how can we empower them to fix this? And in that, we decided that we were going to use what we'll call empowerment over education. And education is you give information to somebody. There's nothing wrong with that, that's a good thing, but ultimately it wasn't enough for what we wanted to do. We wanted to do more. We wanted to facilitate habits. We wanted to encourage failure. We wanted to be the example that we hoped for from them. So let me give you an example of how we accidentally get this backwards. We have a supervisor who is maybe, I don't know, they need to know how to have those critical conversations. All right, that's a pretty popular course, critical conversations, right? So you have a supervisor, they need to know that. And so what do? Because we're HR, we're buried with paperwork, we have a million things to do, we say, hey supervisor so-and-so, I sent you a video on critical conversations, I think that'll give you some tools so that you can have that conversation. Intellectually, that makes sense. Some of you already know where I'm going with this. I heard the gasp already. Here's what we actually just talked, that when you want to solve a problem, you send a video. And what are they going to do? Instead of having that critical conversation, they're going to take whatever their challenge is and send a video to their person. And we said we wanted to empower them, not just educate. We also really continue with this feedback, the feedback over ignorance. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a second. But as we engaged our strategy and as we actually implemented it, we did intermittent feedback where even in the middle of our training program, we said, hey, leaders that we're doing training with, how do you feel? Are we meeting your needs? And what can we change for the second half of this course? Because we really wanted to meet them where they were, and we didn't want to leave them out. We pivoted based on the needs of our people. The first iteration of our leadership training, we had 14 leaders. They were all of our frontline leaders. We required them all to do it because we knew we had let them down massively. And just for the record, that was the messaging we used. We've let you down, we never gave you the tools, and we want to make that right. P.S. You have to be there. But that really was the messaging we used, and that was our genuine heart. We had 14 leaders. We decided the best way to accomplish this was to spread it out. We did 30-minute conversations once a week for 12 weeks. So that we could introduce a concept, we could let them wrestle with that concept, they could deploy the concepts, they could fall on their face, they could come back, we could have a conversation, and then we could introduce the next concept. The first round, like I said, 14 leaders required training. It went, I think, pretty well. We got feedback. We got feedback in two different ways here. The first piece of feedback that we got was when we asked the leaders, how do you feel like this is going? The second thing that we did is toward the end of that, actually, hang on, let me back up for just a second. The second time, let me talk about the second time first. The second round, we made it voluntary. Anybody could join. Anybody remember how many people we had working for the company?
75 to 100.
About 75 to 100. At this point, it would have been right around 85. In the second round, we let anybody that wanted to sign up. We decided we were going to offer 3 classes. Why? Because we recognized that in the first iteration, we had only really catered to first shift. And second and third shift either had to come in early or late, or they were getting recordings. We weren't satisfied with that. Turns out, we needed all 3 classes because of our 85 people, 57 signed up. As it turned out, we weren't just empowering them to be better leaders, and they weren't just leading better, they were now creating other leaders. And of the 57 that signed up for the second iteration, many of them were largely influenced by the first 14, and some of those 14 signed up for a second round because they thought they might have missed something. We noticed 2 things because of this. Number 1, we had a major culture shift. Major culture shift. When we did the random, at the very end of the first round, we did a random and anonymous survey with their subordinates. We sent them an email where they could respond to a box that wouldn't track. Our IT person actually did a truly untrackable survey. And we asked one question, and it wasn't, how much better are your leaders? We asked an unbiased question. Those of you that come from the scientific community, you're going to recognize this as an unbiased question. We said, have you noticed any change in your leaders in the last 2 to 3 months? And if so, what was that change? Don't tell us what we want to hear. Have you noticed? Maybe there was no change. But what we got back was astounding. We got, for example, not sure what's going on, but it feels like they actually care about me. We got, yes, it seems like they're trying to listen more and communicate more clearly. We got, I think he's become more patient with us. Those are all real feedback pieces that came in from an anonymous survey. And as we engaged that strategy and we moved through that, we found that we had struck on something. As it turns out, like I said, they were influencing the entire organization. Now, obviously, that deals with engagement, even retention, but what about recruitment? How does this impact recruitment? Well, that was the second major shift that we noticed. We had a completely different experience. We had gone, and maybe some of this will resonate with some of you, we had gone from a scenario where basically we had to hire every couple months, and if you were breathing and could speak clear enough English to get through the interview, we had to hire you. That resonate with anybody? Okay. Well, now all of a sudden, we don't have people leaving. We were in growth mode, but we didn't have people leaving. And so now, instead of running interviews every 2 months trying to hire people, we were still running interviews every 2 months, but we would have 30 applicants for 2 positions.
Wow.
Why? Because everyone's out in their community, talking to their family, talking to their friends, letting them know about the organization. You need to apply there. I think there might be a position opening soon. And I recall having conversations. By this time I was at the director of revenue position, and I remember having conversations with the director of ops, and he goes, hey, do you need anybody this month, John? And I'm like, maybe in a couple of months. I think we're going to be expanding some stuff on the sales team. He goes, well, listen, I just had interviews with like 30 people. I've got 6 all-stars, and I can only hire 2, at most 3 of them. I really hate to turn down these other 3 that are amazing. And I was like, but what a different situation to be in, where now we have an entirely different culture in our organization, where instead of we got to fill it, we got empty seat, we got to fill it. What was the difference? The simple difference was the everyday experience of our employees, of our team members. I love whoever you change their employee to team member. Our everyday experience of our team members was one that they got to look forward to coming to work. And we talk a lot about leadership, and we talk a lot about the value of effective leadership at the executive level, but ultimately the average team member never knows the executives. The average team member has an experience every day with their immediate supervisor. And as people loved their job, and we got to hire better A-team members, and then it would increase productivity, and more and more and more. And I was on my way here, and I called the HR director that actually we did this together, and she said, John, don't forget to talk about the ROI. And I was like, I wasn't going to talk about money, these are HR people. And she was like, no, they need to know how much we ended up saving on not having to deal with recruitment costs, not having to deal with the lawsuits, not having to, she said that the money was crazy, but it took a lot because our CEO didn't see that. Mm-hmm. Our CEO saw the cost of what it was going to take to deploy this solution, and they didn't see, ultimately in the long run it became obvious, but you're talking probably 1 to 2 year frame for you before you start seeing literal ROI. And so she was like, don't forget to tell them that they need to know about the ROI. And so that's not in my notes, it still isn't, but here's what we learned. Here's what we learned. There we go. Here's what we learned. I came here saying we look at why the current strategies are not working. And I am not here to say that the strategies you are using are bad. I am suggesting they may be, like they were for us, incomplete. What we learned is that the flashy options were not what our people were looking for. We could have the best platform in the world, but ultimately they logged into the platform once a week or once a month or whatever it was. They dealt with their supervisor every day. We learned that, there we go. We learned that listening is powerful. Authentic listening, actually caring about what they have to say. We learned that our frontline leaders were actually the linchpins. How many of you are willing to be honest and say that half of your company believes middle management is a necessary evil? No one's gonna be honest? Okay, a few people are like, my hand doesn't want to move. Unfortunately, that has become the general thought process, and yet they are the ones holding your companies together, I promise. We also learned that empowerment is personal, and goes back to this idea that it's not going to be solved. Doesn't mean you can't be enhanced, but it's not going to be solved at a platform level. It's not going to be solved using it. I had an LMS system. We used it supplementarily. We used it for tracking, but ultimately we dealt with people on a personal level. And the last thing I hope that you guys walk away with is that you are ready to tackle this. This is not something that is outside of range for anybody here. I need 4 volunteers. Don't everybody get up at once now. All right, 1, 2, 3. Come on up if you will, please. I need 1 more. 4, excellent. I'm going to give half of these to you and half of those to you. And I'm going to ask you to give one to every single person here. And then I'm going to give half of these to you. I'm going to give that to you. Don't, let me think here. You want to? Yeah. There we go. Perfect. That was perfect. Right now, you are getting two things. One's just my business card. You can throw that away. We all know what you're going to do. But the worksheet, I hope you don't. The worksheet that you are getting handed right now is a 7-page worksheet that can take you through the process of identifying where your gaps are, what you believe about your frontline leadership, what you're currently doing, what you could be doing better. And you'll notice at the very beginning on the front page, it takes you through a 5-step process, but it asks you a question on the front page, and that is, are you ready to be brutally honest with yourself for the sake of the people you serve? That is the ultimate question, not just for you as HR, but for your organizations. If the answer is yes, then you can kind of move on to the rest of the worksheet. If not, as it says, the worksheet will be there when you're ready. It's a 5-section worksheet. Assess, reflect, plan, engage, and my favorite, repeat. And you can just see how it goes through. Step 1 is assess. You're assessing where you're at right now, what you're doing, how you're doing it. Step 2 gets into reflecting on what you're doing and what is working and what is not working. Step 3 goes into the plan. I call it the TNT method, which deals with the time, narrowing it down and zeroing in on what the challenges are, and then temperance, making sure you have a realistic plan that you can actually follow through on. Because if there's one thing the little cards, we have 2 over there. I technically do have more cards in my backpack. I thought perfect. Thank you. The TNT method, yeah, narrowing down, and then temperate. Make sure you follow through on whatever it is that you do. One thing that our staff are extremely burned out on is projects that don't come to fruition. It's all the initiatives we roll out and we never follow through on them. And here's the deal. I'm not here preaching at you. I know you're busy. I know the next thing happens. I know you roll something out and then the C-suite comes down on you and says, all right, now I need you to do this. And you're like, with what time? And that's one of the reasons why I say I don't think it always works to do it internally. But ultimately, that is the challenge that we all face, right? This at the very end, let me see, TNT, yep, you're engaged. There's a repeat, start date, end date, etc. And at the very end, we wrote a little letter to you. We wrote a letter, as a team, we wrote a letter. You can do this. It's going to take some fortitude, but it's absolutely possible. Now, here's the deal. I know that everybody loves a good handout, which is why we did handouts. We put it on nice paper. Can my team, they're not here, but can my team get a hand for the nice paper they put this on? But I also know that paper only works once, and I hate, with a fiery passion, 1,000 Phoenix Suns copies of copies. Can I get an amen? Amen. Okay. So, if you would like the digital copy of this, simply shoot an email to us at resources@servantmindedleadership.com. We would be delighted to send you the PDF of this so that you can have it printed, distribute it, do whatever. You're welcome to use this. We want you to have this resource at your disposal. I'll give you just a second to take a picture. You can also shoot an email to me. I'm going to give you some QR codes in just a second. But you see people with phones still, so we're going to give this just a second. All right. Key takeaways. The goal of today's session is not to brag about what we did. It's not even to say that what we did is the only way to do it. What I do hope that you'll take away from this, though, is that 3 things, really. Number 1, middle management and frontline leaders are often the linchpins of our organization. And those organizations that want to thrive are going to want to give them the tools they need to succeed. The second thing that I have found, and this is my little tongue-in-cheek thing, but check-the-box solutions produce check-the-box results. I'll say that one again because that one I really like. Check-the-box solutions produce check-the-box results. If you want culture shift, it can't be a check-the-box solution. The third thing is, no matter how technologically savvy our world becomes, human assets still have to be treated like humans. My wife and I were having a conversation about the viability of the training organization because that's what we do primarily is help with human relation type stuff. And she's like, do you think we're going to need this with AI? Like, people are just going to be like going, and I said, we're going to need this more. Because people are going to get worse and worse at engaging with other human beings the more technologically advanced we are. And so these are things that everybody should know. It's my opinion that one of the reasons why current strategies are not working is because either they are incomplete or they are opposite to this. There's not a lot out there for frontline leaders. There is a ton of check-the-box solutions, and they're getting us check-the-box results. And we're not giving human engagement very often. And again, I don't blame you, I understand. Here's the reality. Most of you decided to go into HR because you cared about people, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got there and realized that all they care about is paperwork. And it's a frustrating struggle for many of you. I'm here for it, and I understand that. But I also know that our people have to be treated like people, or they're going to treat us. And that's where the whole quiet quitting thing comes in. It's where everything happens because they don't feel engaged as human beings. Q&A, there we go. Q&A. I was told I needed to leave some time for that. I think I'm on time. If I'm not, I'm very close.
2 questions.
2 questions. And we've got 2 pens. So who will the questions go? All right, 1. What do we got?
How did you find such a fully committed photographer to take all of this? That's amazing.
It is my side muscle, but
She's here to advertise for herself. And what else? Anything about what we talked about today? Yes, ma'am.
How, we have remote people
Yes.
in multiple states.
Yes.
How do you recommend, or
Oh, you do already have one. That's right. You won't get a second one.
how do you recommend trying to take these strategies to get people that I haven't seen since last year?
Yeah.
Take notes.
I will tell you all that this strategy that we talked about, 2 things that will be very interesting to you. This was not done recently. This was done in the heart of when it was tough to find people. This was 2022, 2023, or late 2021, early 2022. Second thing is that of the 85 people, 67% of them were remote.
Wow.
So this can be done in a way that incorporates everybody. It would be a much longer conversation as to all of the strategies, but a lot of it comes from, again, investing the time. What we cannot expect is more from our people than we're willing to give them ourselves. And so when we say, hey guys, go do, and then they don't do, it's a reflection of the fact that we're not saying let's go. And so a lot of our strategy was let's go. And that was, we got a lot of buy-in from that because if nothing else, they knew there was accountability because we were participating in that process with them. All right.
Thank you.
One more real question, because I have a pen. Yes, ma'am.
Trying to formulate this
That's
right.
okay. The real question was in contrast to the camera question, by the way, not yours.
So my question is, or comment is, there is a challenge to get buy-in from your C-suite
Very much
to
so.
support
Yeah.
your middle management or frontline leaders
Yeah.
in order to make this change.
Absolutely.
So there, I think the work, and it varies from organization to organization, but there can be more of the work on getting C-suite
Yeah.
to be honest, be brutally honest, be open, be vulnerable, all those words.
Yeah.
They have to get the buy-in
Yes.
for it to work from the top down.
100%. So if you don't have C-suite, I mentioned it took us 9 months to get this rolling for that exact reason. I'm not here to sell anybody anything today. Something that I had to create as the founder of SML because of that is I have actually built something called an ROI calculator that says how many people do you have, how much time are they working, what's your average rate of pay, how many people did you have quit last year. It takes all the numbers, crunches, and says, look, if you can deploy this effectively, here's the number that you're saving or not spending really.
Okay.
And so I get that, and if that's something you guys need for your, internally, I'm happy to kind of show you what we did with that. But yeah, it's an incredibly difficult challenge to be able to show, especially the C-suite that cares usually about one thing, and that's the bottom line,
Right.
which is not a problem. Every company
Right.
has to keep making money, right? The problem does come in when you're saying, show me the bottom line. It's like, yes, but you're not thinking about all the funny money. Look at all the recruiting costs. Look at all of the drug testing and all the things that go into it. And they're not paying attention to those numbers, and that's what we're able to reveal.
Okay.
All right, get your phones out if you don't already have them, please. We would love to connect with you. This QR code will let you follow us, the company, on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and our website and everything. It's our Linktree bio app, whatever it is. We would love to have you connect with us, and you can follow us on those, and we'll get tips and all sorts of things that we put out. You also, of course, have my card, and on the back of my card, there's actually 2 QR codes. One gives you my contact information. The other one is this QR code, so you have that there. This one is my LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you're welcome to do that. That is not on my card, so if you want to connect, or you can find me, I'm sure. I think I'm special. I'm not. But I'm not too hard to find. I got a pretty unique name. Even if they say Joe, I think it'll come up. It'll probably come up, yes. All right, and then let me see here. I think there's just one more thing. If you hated this, if this was the biggest waste of time that you've ever seen in your life, I genuinely want to know. We are going to be presenting this at multiple HR conferences this year, and if you hated it, I really want to make it better so the next group doesn't have to. All right, so come talk to me afterwards. If you loved it, let Jackie know. She's the one that's organized this and invited me out. Yes, she gets the full credit. And if you loved it and you're like, oh my gosh, everybody needs this, then I would like to invite you to leave us a Google review. As a company, you don't even have to mention me. You can say the ugly guy at the front, we don't care about him. But the content, people need to know about this. We would invite you to participate with us in that way. I've really enjoyed spending this time together with you. I will be here as long as they let me before they kick me out. I even have lunch over here, so I'm ready to hang out with you guys. I didn't eat beforehand. I don't eat before I speak usually, so yeah, no, don't feel bad for me. I'm just saying I'm here for a minute. Thank you so much for letting me present. I hope that you've walked out with feeling benefited, and all I will say is thank you. Palmetto SHRM, it's been a pleasure.